right, 6 o'clock, we'll open, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we'll get started tonight. I did tell members of the fire department that we'll take them right away just because they have a training with an outside person coming in to do it who's waiting for them. So we're going to take new business A before we even do reports. But I also wanted to note that we are doing a public hearing at 6:15 and again at 6:30. So we're going to have to break for those as we go through tonight's agenda. So page 227 of the agenda, the Airport, Air Show, and Fire Relief Association Backdraft Bash. Folks, what do you got for us? Somebody want to go to the podium so we can hear you?
Just a little for you.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, Andy.
So you got all the answers.
I don't know about that.
So, Backdraft Bash, you want to have it again this year?
Yes,
In simple terms?
what was that?
In simple terms?
We're combining it with the air show this year, August 23rd, 2025. After the air show, we will begin our event. We have 2 bands this year, Diesel Fire and Dam Jammers.
So it looks like you're asking for an on-sale liquor license application, asking to pay the insurance for reimbursement from the chamber, assistance from PD for security and stuff like that, use of the generator, and then some no parking and other traffic control things, yes? Okay. Any questions from the council? From my review of it, everything looks to be in order. Chief, anything we're missing? I'm not seeing anything on here. It looks good to me.
Well, we actually met with the fire department and the Friends of the Airport to specifically discuss kind of the plan, the layout, and so I believe we're all on the same page and have things kind of set the way they need to, and we'll have staffing accordingly.
With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the action items requested on our action sheet.
So moved.
Motion by Brick, is there a second?
Second.
All right, and again, that is for the items identified on our action sheet, which is page number 228 of the agenda, which is approval of the air show, or excuse me, to approve the city lots and Airport View Court, law enforcement assistance, use of the generator, on-sale liquor license, insurance, and so forth. Motion by Brick, seconded by Hersberg. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. On then to council activity reports. It's been about a month, so forgive me, I'm going to miss something, but it's been rather slow. Did talk to Tarek last week. We are going to set up a meeting. Meeting's been scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. with AMBI to talk about their BOD discharge and how it's affecting our sewer ponds and their creation of a pre-treatment plant, which was supposed to have been to us by my estimations about, what, 36 months ago? I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but I think it was still due to us quite a while ago, and it's causing some significant issues with our ponds. So to any residents who are watching, if you've noticed an increase in smell from the ponds, the city is aware of it. We are working to address it and take care of it, remedy things like that. Otherwise, I think the storms that rolled through last night, I'm not aware of any significant damage that I saw or observed, so I think that's good. And you know that the street in front of my house flooded again, but that's not an uncommon occurrence for that amount of rain just while the pond catches up to the water that came down. So it cleared in just a few minutes and it was all good to go. That's all I have. Turn it over to you, Paul.
Yeah, all I have is the planning board from last Monday.
Megan,
Okay. Just a second.
thanks for being busy.
So we had a meeting addressing the Night to Unite, which will be on August 5th. It'll be a fun night as always, and I hope a lot of people can make it. There'll be the usual games and food and all of that fun stuff. Then I had a Rural Child Care Initiative meeting, actually a couple of them, and we are addressing our, the event that we're doing for the current providers, because we, really want to express how much we value them and how big a piece they are of the puzzle moving forward. So we're going to do that, and then there will be a town hall meeting in November where we're hoping to get a lot of input from the community. And then I did also attend a meeting at AMPI with Tarek and Dan discussing the issue with the ponds and kind of where we go from here. I believe that's it for me.
Okay. Neil?
All I had was a green roof meeting, and nothing real big going on there. They're doing the concessions at concerts in the park for this month for in July. And they're watching the liquor store going up, and good process there. Looking at, it looks like there's some markings where we're abandoning the utilities, and I believe that's the staking that's going in front of their building. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay. Donna?
Slow month also, just attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting. Just getting ready for the circus that'll be in town tomorrow night. That is all.
Okay. Nobody has made a comment about the circus in town the other days of the year. That's good. Great. Department head reports. Dan?
Well, we didn't have much damage in the storm. We did have a couple of guys out dealing with power outages, making sure everything was running. We had all the generator out in the field. It leads me to something we'll probably see coming for me in the short future is we need a lift gate on the back of a pickup, because those guys are trying to lift stuff in, and they were trying to use the crane in the back of one of the trucks to lift the stuff in, because one guy had a bad back, the other guy's got a bad hip. Lift gate's a simple thing that'll come down, you roll it on there, you push a button, it'll pull it in. I highly recommend we get one of those in the future. I'll bring that pricing to you at another council meeting. Just want to preface that, because if the biggest snag they probably had during this storm event was moving equipment. And we have another storm coming in, all the guys are ready, we have that stuff all lined up ahead of time, so hopefully we don't get anything and we don't have to use it, but. So we visit about that in the morning, and then later on in the day, I get a call from the garbage hauler because the garbage at the Headworks building, which is AMPI, was too full, he couldn't move it. Lee had been out there in the morning, and it wasn't. We went back and checked, and we had a lot of product come in a short amount of time. So we had to shovel half the product from one dumpster to the other, so they didn't have the ability to remove it. So we're still getting more coming down the line than we sure like to see.
I think the idea of a lift gate is a no-brainer. Feel free to bring the pricing to the next agenda, or council. I think we can take care of it. If there's a solution to hauling those cans up and down, I'm all ears on that too.
Yep, working on that.
Okay. Any questions for Dan? Tarek?
Well, like you said, pretty light week or couple of weeks. We had the ad hoc downtown meeting and the planning board meetings, which were already mentioned. And then as Megan mentioned, we did the planning meeting for Night to Unite, which is coming up here soon. So I hope everybody can make it. And yeah, those are really the key meetings here, in addition to the meeting we have with AMPI.
Any questions for Tarek? Is there anybody here for our open forum tonight? Moving on then, I'd entertain the adoption of the consent agenda, the minutes on page 1, Vouchers on page 2 totaling $491,491.14, along with the gambling application and this temporary street closure for Night to Unite. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Brick, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Harrisburg. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Right. Moving on then to ordinance number 58, third series on mailboxes. Dan?
Oh, we came up with this ordinance because we looked around town and saw that a lot of mailboxes aren't located in the right location. They need to be moved so they're not a target for when we start plowing snow. And in the future, if you sell your home, the post office will not deliver to the doorstep anymore. You're gonna have to have a mailbox on the curb. So we thought it was a good idea to get a standard for everybody to follow so they know how to mount their mailbox. So they're all uniform and conforms to the code.
Is this going to affect those that are already out there that do not comply?
Yes, they will need to move their mailbox or take the chance that damage could occur to them. My proposal is everybody will get the new code given to them so that they're aware of it.
It's the recommendation from staff is to approve this ordinance number 58, third series. If there's no discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance number 58, third series.
Motion by Hersberg, is there a second?
Can I have just back up to a little bit of a discussion?
Let's have a second first, just to be procedurally correct,
Okay.
and I'll turn to you, sir.
Second.
Motion by Hersberg, seconded by Potter. Going to Paul.
So I was talking to one of the letter carriers about not delivering to the houses and having mailboxes, and the post office in town did not know anything about this. So I was a little concerned about it, as like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. I think we should still go through with the motion, but just wanted to let everyone else be alerted that the letter carriers and their union don't know about it yet, or haven't when I spoke to the letter carrier.
And it's possible this is a year or two out, I mean,
Could be, yeah.
but we do know some neighboring towns where this has happened.
Yep.
So is there a, like, deadline on this, or just of some sort?
Not that I know of. We just know it's sooner than later.
Yeah, well, I just meant the ordinance itself, because otherwise it's just kind of like, we vaguely at some point in the future want you to get a new mailbox, you know? I don't know if we need to have a date set on it, because I don't, my mailbox is on my house, so, which, it won't be a problem to get a new one, but for some people it might be. And especially, you know, there are some people who can barely get to the curb to get their mail, let alone install a new mailbox, so I think we're gonna have to look at, some organizations or some things within the city that might be able to help with that. So I just think if we have like some kind of time frame, it might be better going forward.
I don't see anything in here, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that says you have to get rid of your
Your house one?
house one. This is simply for the ones that are put up on a post in the right of way, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
For now? Okay.
So, I wonder though, to Megan's question, would it make sense for us to just add a paragraph D that just says something like, any mailbox that exists that does not conform to the mailbox guidelines is not eligible for repair or replacement costs if damaged by a snowplow?
That is actually in the ordinance. It states that if damage occurs to a mailbox that is in the wrong place,
Yeah.
the city
Okay, I
will
see it.
cover the cost. If it's in the right place and we still hit it, the city will cover the cost.
Okay.
So this is mainly for the people that have mailboxes now, and they need to be in the placement of the ordinance to comply. And if they aren't and get hit, we're not gonna cover it.
Well, and luckily the town is growing, so we want to have something for those people that are moving into our community.
Yeah, I think it's good to get it out now then before the snow flies, but, okay.
Well, I'll entertain a motion real quick, and then we have to go to our public hearing. Any further discussion very briefly? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the ordinance indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries. All right, then we have a tax abatement hearing on the Lewis Industries tax abatement request. We have Jessica Green here from Northland Public Finance. Jessica, what would you like to tell us about this?
Mayor, council, good evening. Mayor, as you just mentioned, we have a public hearing related to the application related to tax abatement assistance for Lewis Industries. So Lewis Industries has provided an application to the city to request tax abatement assistance for a expansion project to their facility within the industrial park. As a bit of a history here, so Lewis Industries has received TIF assistance from the city and currently has an active tax abatement for a expansion project that occurred back in 2022 or about 2022, and they are back for another tax abatement for an expansion that'll be about 44,000 square feet. All told, the building, once this expansion is constructed, should be about 185,000 square feet. So with tax abatement, a public hearing is required prior to a city providing approval for a tax abatement assistance. Unlike TIF, where there is sort of a long-form TIF plan that is several pages, et cetera, tax abatement is much simpler and the uses are much more broad. So with tax abatement, again, public hearing is required, and then really there's a very simple test. So the city council needs to make a finding that the benefit to the community is greater than the cost of the abatement to the city. And that's kind of the long and the short of it. With TIF, as you know, there's a but-for test, et cetera. There's a lot of different analysis that goes into it. So with this application, what was stated in the application itself was that the developer was looking at some other potential locations to effectively build a new site. Rather than going down that path, the developer decided to apply to the city for additional tax abatement assistance, and then there's also some assistance that is proposed to come from the county and the school district, also in the form of tax abatement. And then there is also some assistance coming from DEED in the form of a job creation fund loan, and then also dollars from the Minnesota Investment Fund as well. So what we've done, according to what was requested from the developer, is to kind of set this up similar to a TIF district. So what we looked at is what we would anticipate for city portion of property taxes based on the expansion over 9 total years at 90% of the increase in the city's portion of taxes. So with the memo that is in your packet, we have the estimate that provides for about $182,000. It's $182,735 to be exact. The city council is able to kind of do whatever you want here. So we, again, have this structured over 9 years. You can do something more, you can do something less. In terms of the dollar amount, what was noticed in the public hearing notice was that maximum amount of $182,735. You can certainly do something less than that if you'd like to. So there's a lot of flexibility here for the council to proceed however you'd like. Whatever you decide tonight would then be drafted into a development agreement or a tax abatement agreement that would come before you at your next meeting or the meeting after that. So again, there really isn't a whole lot of information as far as like a TIF plan, for example. Those just, they're not drafted for tax abatement just because, again, it's much more simplistic. But I am happy to take any questions that you have about the application. Tarek is a developer here. Okay. So we do have representation here from the developer should there be questions specific to the project.
Any questions for Jessica?
Just to note, the last abatement was up to 90,000.
I believe so, yes.
Tarek, anything you want to tell us other than that?
Well, I mean, I could talk a little bit about the project, but I'd rather you hear it from the company itself.
Okay. Before we get into that, just for the record, the tax abatement is not an abatement on all taxes, it's an abatement on the increased taxes, correct?
Correct, yep. So in terms of any sort of pressure on the city, you're in a neutral position, because the amount that you're levying for that abatement, which would reimburse the developer on an annual basis based on the taxes paid, and there is no reimbursement if the taxes are not paid. But you're also realizing an increase in your overall tax base. So the amount that you're reimbursing sort of zeroes out the amount of that increase in the tax base. And in fact, here, because we've set this up as a 90%, the city would enjoy some benefit of that additional property tax, as you're only reimbursing 90%.
And then the school district and county also have a say in this, correct?
That's correct. So they need to hold their own process, they'll need to hold their own public hearing related to tax abatement, should they choose.
Do we know where they're at in those processes?
I spoke with the school district this morning. They have yet to schedule their public hearing. My understanding is that the tax abatement committee has met at the county level, but I don't know that they've set on a certain term, and I don't believe that they've set a public hearing date at this point.
And then I heard some, and saw some nods from the developer, so we'll get Lewis up here in just a second too to talk about that. Anything else for Jessica or Tarek? Okay. Gentlemen, what would you like to tell us about the project, please?
If we're focused just on the abatement tonight, we'll just talk on that.
Yes.
I think we've got a couple others going on. In regards to the county and the school board, at the county level, they wanted the city to take the lead, that's why we're here first. Once the city makes their decision, the county's ready to schedule their hearing, and then the school board will be the third. So that's just kind of the process. The city's gonna go first, the county's gonna be second, and the school board's gonna be third. That's kind of the pecking order we agreed on up front.
And I think overall, though, they've all expressed some support for this, correct?
Yeah, and the reason why we have to do abatement versus a TIF is because we're in a current tax abatement district, and you can't do TIF and abatement at the same time, but you can do abatement on top of abatement. And if you remember back to 2021, 2022, the reason why we couldn't do TIF and we had to do abatement was there was an old railroad spur that was in the industrial loop that was not abated correctly. I guess that term's gonna be overused right now. And we had to go through and abate the whole line from Minnie Street to the end of the industrial loop. And because of that, because we combined 7 parcels into one, TIF didn't fit within that, and that's where abatement kind of is a little bit more forgiving than the rules of TIF. So the reason we're doing an abatement today is because we already have an abatement district, and all we're doing is really asking for the abatement to mirror what a traditional TIF would be, to make a long story short. Other than that, I think Jessica did a great job putting the numbers together. I can't really see anything that we would look to change. I guess it's more questions for anyone that has something.
I'm good. I'm just hoping, since it is a public hearing, could you give us like I'd say 30,000 feet, but let's go higher, like 150,000 foot overview of your project?
So basically, we're out of space to continue to expand and grow. So ultimately speaking, looking at better flow within our facility, looking at onboarding a couple new customers, and just looking for space. The things we do can be the size of, or as small as the size of your finger, up to 20 foot by 8 foot by 10 foot tall. And so we just need space to put stuff, we need space to store stuff, we need space for manufacturing. And space costs money.
And you're working with DEED, so I imagine you're bringing some folks on as part of this project.
Yep, we've gotten all of our approvals from DEED for both the JCF and the MIF. So I think So we're, as far as we're concerned there, we're locked and loaded. We've got the abatement here, and then we've got a little bit of stuff with the county, and we're looking to be moving earth by the end of August.
I don't have any other questions. Anyone else on the council? Otherwise, I'll close our public hearing and we'll go back into our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, and we'll close the public hearing. Then we have page 12 was the next on our agenda. The discussion on the proposed tax abatement for Lewis Industries and their expansion project. We just had our public hearing. I think I'm satisfied with the public benefit being that we're going to have expanded job growth and that we're supporting a business that's been in our community for decades and now familial generations. So helping them to grow and expand and serve more customers and bring more jobs to Painesville. I'm satisfied with what's going on here, and I would be in support of the abatement. Anyone else? We have a resolution if somebody wants to move to adopt it, or if we're going to propose something alternatively.
I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 2025-25, approving property tax abatement for certain property located in the city of Painesville.
So motion by Hersberg, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick, as stated on the action sheet. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Oh, we've got about 3 minutes until our next public hearing. I'm looking ahead at the housing study. Is probably going to take more than 3 minutes to discuss.
I've been told about that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. The liquor store bonding. Jessica, are you going to need more than 3 minutes on the liquor store bonding? Okay, let's talk about the liquor store bonds.
Mayor, council, you have a resolution to ratify the previous action that was taken by the EDA previously this evening. This is for the issuance and sale of $1,805,000 in lease revenue bonds for the construction of the new liquor store. So the EDA did go ahead and approve the sale of the bonds. However, it does require that the council ratify any actions that are taken by the EDA. There are a number of different documents that are in your packet this evening, a trust indenture, a ground lease, a lease, etc. You do not need to take any action on those specific documents, as the resolution that's in your packet authorizes the execution of those documents. I won't go over the sale results again unless Mayor, council, you'd like me to.
I will just summarize. Our credit rating came in at an A+.
It did.
One step below our AA negative.
Correct.
For the city, these are not GO bonds.
Correct.
So they're not going to affect the city's rating on other things. And our interest rate came right in where we were projecting at 5.
5.17, which is right on top of the finance plan that we discussed back in June. And in fact, the total debt service is about $15,000 less than what we were estimating.
We probably should make a record since our secretary wasn't here for that meeting, so. She's not even listening now.
I was listening, I'm just choosing to move past that. It was in the past, it was like 45 minutes ago, so let's just.
So, anything else that we need to know?
No, Mayor, I don't believe so.
Any other questions by the council? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution 2025-26.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2025-26, authorizing the execution and delivery of a ground lease agreement, and continuing disclosure undertaking and allocating small issuer rebate exception authority, continuing disclosure undertaking by the City of Painesville, indenture of trust, ground lease agreement, and lease agreement.
Motion by Brick is stated on the action sheet. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Thielen. Any further discussion? Bill, can you pay for this?
Yes.
Okay. Personally, if the store can't do it?
You'll have to talk to Belinda.
That's the right answer.
Yes, good answer.
Sell a few more pools to pay for that.
All right. Any further discussion? None. Calling the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now for the liquor store drainage and utility easement vacation public hearing. Tarek, is this something you're talking to us about? We're also now in a severe thunderstorm watch, so here we go again, guys. Dan, vacating some utilities.
For liquor store drainage?
Oh, I mean, I can speak about it, but I know Chuck was handling that one.
Yeah, this is just basically vacating the existing drainage and utility easement between the two lots where the liquor store is being built, so.
Right
The
along.
building's being built pretty much right over the easement, so it's a vacation to just address the connection of the two lots.
Are we charging the developer for this vacation?
Don't believe so.
We should.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Anybody here to comment on this public hearing? Not seeing anyone. Anything else for the public hearing? All right, we'll close that. We'll go back into our business meeting, page 19 of the agenda. Looking at vacating the drainage and utility easements that the city has on its own property. So we'd be looking at a motion to approve the vacation of the drainage and utility easements. Resolution 2025-25.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2025-25 as stated on the action sheet.
Motion by Brick, as stated on the action sheet. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Hersberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. Housing study, page 28 of our agenda. Tarek's gonna try and get us a projection.
Well, I plug it in manually, so. Something with the storm knocked out our.
Not again. Don't say these things.
No, it works, it's just. The connection we had for some reason.
Just get to watch TV first.
The last time we had a storm-related issue, it was what, a year and a half and a nightmare of an insurance claim?
Yep.
Let's not do it again. Let's buy powers like surge protectors.
Excellent. Thank you, Tarek.
All right, Robin.
Good afternoon, evening, Mayor and City Council Member. I'm Robin Kaufman. I think I had a chance of meeting most of you a few months ago when I gave a preliminary review of the housing study, and I'm here to do a final review of this and answer any questions. And I should mention, introduce myself just for those that I haven't met before. I'm Robin Kaufman. I'm a planning project manager with Bolton and Mink, so I work with Chuck closely on projects. And we conducted this, we were asked to do a housing study, and it was perfect timing because we were able to complete the study and it was able to help support a housing grant that we submitted and hope to hear on soon. So maybe just to talk a little bit, today I thought I'd start by highlighting just what the planning process was, some of the key findings, and then the recommendations. As far as the process, we started by collecting a lot of the current demographic, economic, and housing data. And I mention economic, a lot of times people just think, oh, it's a housing study, we're just gonna look at housing. But that's not necessarily the case. I mean, we're just talking, it's very appropriate that I'm following some of the projects that you were just talking about, because obviously if you have a lot of jobs, people want to live here, and so they're very closely connected, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But so we went through and compiled a lot of economic data. We did survey the community. We were able to get, I think, around 57 responses from folks. And the nice thing about doing surveys, a lot of times it's not just looking at the data. Like, you know, you can look at the data, but you really want to kind of test it, I guess, and kind of get that the community stories, and just double check to see, is the data matching what we're hearing from the community as well, and it can help us better understand the data. So we analyzed the data and provided those draft recommendations. We met, reviewed it over breakfast at the EDA meeting, and got a lot of really good feedback, which we did go back and make some changes to the report. And I think it was a really good discussion. And then we've come up with some strategies and recommendations for priorities. So as far as community engagement, as I mentioned, there was probably about 15, 20 questions, but these are just maybe some of the highlights. Like I said, we did get about 57 responses. We did talk to several property managers, including the senior housing owner. We did see feedback from a few local banks and some realtors. Didn't get a lot of responses, but we at least reached out. Also reached out to the chamber as well. We met with the EDA. The top issues that we identified through that survey was that housing costs too much, which I think all of us already, a lot of people say that, a lot of people know that. We heard that there's not enough rental housing, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then there's also not enough homes for sale. And as you can see, one of the things we just asked, most of the people either lived or worked in Paynesville. And we found that of the people that we surveyed, so of those 57 people, 54 of them are spending more than 30% of their income on housing, on their housing expenses. And that's important because once you start to get above that 30%, you're really constrained on what you can spend on healthcare, transportation, a lot of other expenses. It also impacts your disposable income too. So like if you're spending a lot of it on just your necessities, you may not have disposable income, which can also help support the local economy. So as far as key finding population growth, this was really interesting. Your city is growing at 0.56% annual percentage. So not very high. I think it's a little higher than the state. But what I think is really interesting is that your housing stock is growing at 0.6. And I think one of the things we found is that your population growth is really being constrained by your housing. And so we really sense, and we're going to talk a little bit about it under the jobs, that if there were more housing, you would probably see more growth, but that's really constraining your growth. So providing housing to meet the needs of the existing residents and those commuting in for work would require a lot more production. So what we've done some forecasting. We'll talk a little bit at another slide based on jobs, but to catch up for that demand, so this chart here, maybe I'll talk about this chart. The red line, that solid red line, that is your population growth if you continue to grow at that 0.56%. So by 2035, 10 years from now, you might have roughly 2,600 people. If you grew, the blue line is showing that if you grew a little bit faster, like almost double at 1%, you would have around a little over 27,000. And then if you're really aggressive at 2%, you'd have about 3,000 people by 2035. So just to kind of show how maybe adding more housing could impact your growth. So this is where I think the economy is really important. You have a ton of jobs. This chart, I love this chart because it shows that of all of the workers in the city, 402 live here. So you've got 402 people that live and work here. You do have 758 people that live here that work elsewhere. And that's not meaning that they flow from west to east. It just means that they're leaving, so they're not all going to St. Cloud. They're probably a few going to New London and Wilmer. But then you have almost double that coming into your city. So your population actually grows during the daytime. And so you have almost 1,500 people that are coming into the city for work, and that's counterbalancing the 750. So what this tells us really is that there's probably a desire, like if people could find housing, they probably would live here if they could be close to their job. So I think that's a really good indicator. As far as this is another indicator, is that Paynesville unemployment rate is 1%, so that's pretty low. That's lower. I think the state averages are between 3% and 4% right now. And overall, the central Minnesota is actually growing. Economy is growing at about 5.2% growth. So,
Robin, before you
Yeah.
go on, can I just
Yeah.
ask, of those 1,468, do we have an idea of how far they're coming from?
I should have grabbed the map. Let me see if I have that data in here. We usually we look at the data of how far they're driving. They're not driving very far. They're pretty close. Let's see if I can get to the economic part. does it show, do I have the data that shows? I do. On page 10 of the report, it shows that, let's see, 22% or almost a quarter of the people that are coming in are driving 5 to 9 minutes. So they're not coming from far, they're close by. And then it kind of, there's like another 10% that are 10 to 15 minutes, 11%, 15 to 19 minutes. After 30 minutes, it drops off. So they're coming from pretty close by.
Yeah, I've got a question for you too.
Yeah.
How does this compare to surrounding cities?
This is pretty high, like a lot of, the fact that you have more people coming in, that is very, very high. A lot of times, I just did a housing study for Chippewa County, Montevideo, and Clara City, and they had double the number that were leaving as were coming in. So this is very unusually high.
Okay.
We have another number that I'm going to talk about in a second here that I think is also very unusual for the city. Something I haven't actually seen outside of, anyway, that's a teaser. So here it is. This is the next thing. Your largest age group is 20 to 24-year-olds. This is amazing. You want to keep them. Every city that I've worked with, this is one of their smallest populations. Unless you're in like a Winona or a college town, that the 20 to 24 somethings they vacate and then you don't get them back until they're in their 30s. So I think it's really important, like it's nearly 11% of your population is 20 to 24. So I think that's really important. And again, that's just something I've not seen in other cities, the cities that I've worked with. The other thing that you have is you have 70% of your population is either 1 and 2 person households. So I think, one of your you do have the kind of the bell curve that has a lot of people above, senior citizens. So between the 20 and 24-year-olds and the senior citizens that may be single family or single individuals now, widows or widowers, you have like one, that's who's making up the majority of your population. The 20 to 24s and the seniors is 70% of your population, just about. And so this is, like when you look at your housing stock, this is telling me that you have a really big demand for 1 bedrooms, maybe 2 bedrooms, rental properties, because that's definitely, a lot of your population is in. Let's see, at the time. Oh, but this is the other thing, when we were looking, we also look at just like how many houses are for sale. There was, I think, 1 house and 1 apartment that we could find, just on the various like market online searches. So, the other thing you can see is the owner occupied is also high. So even with one person and 2 person households, they're still in that 20% are 1 person, 2 person are 29%. And then you really you start to actually drop off with your 3, 4, and 5 person. So not a lot of families, pretty small percentage as a city overall. So what this tells me, another thing, we did talk to the senior housing folks. They have a wait list of 100 people for a 50-unit building. So this tells me that you have a really big demand. And again, this is probably the 1 bedroom, maybe 2 bedroom apartments that they're looking for. But this tells me you could probably double these and because if you have 100 people and 100 people waiting in a 50-unit building, you're going to have to go through turnover at least twice before they're available. And of course, the demand is going to continue to grow. So senior housing is really big. Aging population, again, will continue to grow this. Another thing, just some unique challenges that came out of the study was that 8% of your city's units are seasonal homes. So this is another thing when looking at population. If you are a seasonal resident and maybe live in Naples, Florida, or Phoenix, Arizona, if that's a lot of times folks claim those as their residence, their permanent residence, and so they're not actually being captured in Paynesville's population counts, like their census counts. But 8% of your housing units, we are able to capture how many of the housing units are seasonal versus full-time residents. So 8% of your homes are seasonal homes. So those are folks that live here 3-4 months out of the year. They're supporting the economy 3-4 months of the year, but the homes are not available for folks. And it could be that, especially if they're retired, those are homes that could be, if they were sold, could be available for people that could move in with families. A lot of times they're 3-4 bedroom homes already. So one senior living facility and the 20 single family homes are being used for sober living. Again, that those individuals are not being counted as residents, and so they're occupying housing, but they're not being counted as residents. So just something that's, again, that's something else that I haven't run across before in a community. As far as the 8%, that's actually pretty typical for greater Minnesota. I think a lot of people, that's about, I've seen between 5 and 10 or 12%. So that's actually pretty typical. As far as key findings, if your current housing growth is 18 units per year, that's the little blue line at the bottom. If you wanted to provide housing, what we did is for assumptions, if we assumed that maybe 150 of those, or if we assumed 10% or 150 of the workers, those 1,500 people commuting in every day, if we wanted to try to provide housing for them, just 10%, that would be 30 units per year, 30 more units a year to build, just to try to even capture a small category, a small amount of that. The other thing, so that's what the red line is capturing, is adding, trying to catch up and just try to add housing to capture those workers. Another thing that we like to do, you have almost like 0% vacancy rate. Usually to have a healthy housing market, you want to have 5% vacancy rate. That's for a few reasons. One, you want to have housing, you want to have vacancies so that people have time to actually find something. Like if they want to live in Paynesville, if a house goes out on the market, they're going to buy it because whether it meets their needs or not. 5% usually gives people a little bit of choice, so maybe they can find housing. Could be that there's people that are in their homes and they want to move out of their homes, but there again is no place, to move to meet different needs. Another thing, if you have rental housing, that vacancy rate gives landlords time to do repairs and fixes. But a lot of times when we talk to property managers, they're just like, I have someone that's literally moving in the week after the other people move out. That doesn't give homeowners time to do, or the property owners time to, maybe fix recarpet, paint, do routine maintenance just because they want that next person in. So again, having that vacancy gives them some time to do those needed maintenance and repairs. So that's just a recommendation. I think there is definitely the market and the ability to add more, and I think it would probably be absorbed pretty quick. As far as priorities, we've kind of got a recommendations and priority list as far as top priority. I marked these. I think senior housing would be a high priority for a few reasons. One, there's definitely demand. The second one is that if you have existing residents that are living in homes, again, it almost frees up for families. You don't have to create new homes, you just need to have existing homes. If like a senior that moves out of their 3-bedroom home that they've raised their family in, that now frees it up for a young family to move in, or maybe a young couple, maybe some of those 20-somethings, put some sweat equity into it, make it their own. And so I think that's one of your really high priorities because it actually, you kind of get a twofer out of it, which is kind of nice. As far as rental housing, I think for developable sites, we have some developable sites, and Tarek and I have talked a little bit about the city-owned property, and then we've been working with the property owner. So if there's some sites that are ripe, already served by sewer and water and public utilities, those are the ones that I think you should focus on. working on providing grants and incentives for developers, you know, just like we were talking with Deed, and I know we've applied for a grant recently. You know, those are ways to attract developers. And then under moderately priced owner occupied, we did one of the proposals, and this is more of a medium priority. I think doing number one to free up existing homes would probably be more, like, that's a higher priority than trying to provide assistance for maybe new homes or whatnot. Another recommendation, again, medium priority, we did review your zoning codes, and there's a few things that I think we could do to make it more appealing and maybe a little, like, alleviate some burden or some challenges to housing by reviewing and updating your zoning codes. One, this is a common one. A lot of times in the 70s, 80s, a lot of cities added zoning codes to require homes to be a minimum size of 24 feet, 24 by 24 feet. And a lot of cities did that because they were trying to kind of zone out mobile homes and manufactured homes. And so a lot of cities have that on the books. Well, a lot of times now, modular homes, prefab homes, they're actually pretty common. They're, higher quality, different. There's a lot of demand for them. I'm seeing in a lot of cities. And so just even going through and reviewing your zoning codes and maybe taking that's an example of taking that out might free up some different housing construction methods that are more popular and affordable now. As far as existing homes, doing maintenance assistance type programs, just again, to maintain, housing's expensive to build. It's cheaper to actually maintain what you have. And so providing assistance programs to existing homeowners, or, if someone does move out and a young couple moves in, helping them, support that. Remodeling grants and incentives. Well, maybe I'll just go back to on the maintenance assistance program. Like another example of that is helping older folks maybe help update their homes. My aunt, for example, just got, she lives in Duluth, and she just got a $20,000 grant to redo her foundation. And the nice thing with that, I think it was a state program where she was able to get her foundation fixed. And it gets like forgiven a certain, like a, certain percent, like a 1% or not 1%, like 5% a year. And if she sells it before then, that money goes back into the program to go to somebody else. So she's not paying for it, but it allowed her, like, she couldn't have afforded to do it on her own. So that's kind of another example of some maintenance programs. Remodeling, we looked at remodeling, and you have an average of about 20-some remodel permits a year, which is pretty high, so it shows that people are maintaining their homes, and the average value is about $12,000. So again, a lot of people are already putting money into their homes. Energy efficiency upgrades, it's low priority, but it's kind of low-hanging fruit, so it's one of those things. There's a lot of like power companies and gas companies that'll help people, and it helps reduce cost of the housing. A housing committee, this was one of the recommendations, was to form a housing committee just to focus on just this and maybe recommendations. And then just doing regular review and assessment, like that's really important. Just to kind of check in, like, how are we doing? Are we making headway on any of these issues? So I think that was my last slide. Happy to take any questions or anything that strikes you.
You had talked about our growth, I think it was like 18 units per year.
Yeah.
I assume that was considering that like one-off last year where we had 18 homes go up.
Yeah.
So realistically, we're probably looking at like 5-year average of what, like 3, maybe?
I'm trying to remember. I think that was just start, because it does take into account like I know what it was. You have had like 18 a year, like over 5 or 6 years, but you had the senior housing, so you've had it was only one building, but they count it by units instead. So between the big apartment building, the senior housing, and then the subdivision.
I follow you now, we're good.
Yeah. Interesting thing is the new subdivision that's almost done. This home is in the, you know, I've heard that this is selling out very quick. The interesting thing is that the home values are actually, for the new construction, are actually less than the median home value in the city. But a lot of them, you know, they don't have the finished basements, they don't have the deck. But this is what really, if you're trying to attract young families, this is perfect, because they're gonna add the deck at some point, you know, they're gonna have the deck raising party with their friends at some point, or finish the basement. I know my husband and I did that when we built our first home. So, you know, this is a perfect example if you are trying to attract young families. This is the perfect size and allow them to finish the basement, add the deck, you know, do some improvements. I think my favorite quote, I think I put it in the report here, I should have put that on the last slide, in the survey was, where did I put it? It was under the recommendations. My favorite quote is that just housing needs to be affordable and nice, not fancy or expensive. I think people, you know, they can eventually add granite if they want to, but they're, you know, like linoleum is fine. At least it's a new home that I can move my family into. So I love that quote.
Thank you so, oh, go ahead, Neil.
I'm happy because basically it's telling developers that there's a need. And the bankers that if you want to invest in Painesville, there's a need, then you should have sales, so.
Yes.
That's what we were looking for, and the report tells us that, and
Great,
I'm happy.
great.
There is discussion for us to be discussing or holding a public hearing on amending our zoning ordinance as to how we allow for apartment buildings in our downtown area.
Yeah.
Does this report give us any insight on what direction we might want to steer in terms of allowing or not allowing that?
I think I personally am a big supporter of housing in the downtown areas. I think mixed use is very popular. So especially, you know, when you have the retail, kind of the retail with 2 or 3 stories of apartments above. I mean, there's definitely, again, with this, oops, I went past it too fast. With this demographic, you could easily do 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. Senior housing downtown is fabulous because folks they can go get their hair cut, they can go have coffee, they can get their nails done. You know, they've got a lot of resources right downtown that they can visit. They can go to City Hall if they want to get their driver's license or, you know, whatever services they need. So I think that having the housing downtown is great. And it gives you, another thing is that it gives you some light, like some activity going on downtown during the night. You know, a lot of times downtowns they're busy during the day and then everyone goes to the residential areas. So having that, I think, is really important. So I think both seniors, young adults, singles, love having housing downtown.
So I'm just trying to think about it, and it's been a very long day, so I'll try to, you know, make some sentences work here. I guess my question or my thought too is that, you know, while it is the largest age group is the 20 to 24-year-olds, it's also, you know, we did have the big apartment building go up that is smaller, you know, so it's like, is that why, if we were to have more, you know, more development of single-family homes, then would we see these 4-person, 5-person, 6-person households increase? You know, do we need more apartments because if they're already here in the city, then, you know, and if it's a 1 or 2-person, are they looking to move to anything else? So do we need a lot more of those apartment buildings and homes for 1 or 2 people, or do we need to look at increasing our other demographics? Are they going to come in if we have something? If we build it, will they come? So I'm kind of just wondering what those numbers mean, because the numbers of the roughly 1,500 people who are coming in, who might possibly want to live here, which I honestly wish that it was established that they lived further out, not closer. Because if you live 5 or 10 minutes away, you aren't going to want to move. Versus if it's a 20, 30 minute, 40 minute drive, you are. But anyway, that number is just a number. We don't have a breakdown of, are those 1,500 people single people? Are they family people who, once their kids go to school, they're going to want to live close to have everything all together, So I guess I'm not convinced that we need to look at, clearly we need more housing. But I'm just not completely convinced yet that we are going to need, for single people or for just 2 people, if that's a huge demographic that's going to need housing, if that makes sense.
Yes, and Tarek, do you have my report? Can you pull the staff, or I can just refer to the table?
Yeah.
Everyone, you guys have it in front of you, right? So page 5 shows the breakdown by age group. We like to do it's this orange chart on the bottom. We like to do this, and it's also helpful too, so almost to your question, is that you want to retain them, right? But we
Yeah.
also look at the age group. We also look at the age group and, 10 years from now, where are they going to be? Because a lot of times think of how long it takes to do a housing project. Like, you've got to find the land, and then you got to do the permit, and you got to whatnot. So think about where those 20 to 24-year-olds are going to be in 10 years. They're going to be 30 to 34-year-olds and 30 to 34-year-olds. So I think, to your question, I think it's really important to start thinking about it and planning for it and making sure that you do have homes that they could move families into in 10 years.
Okay.
I think one of the challenges is that a lot of cities, like, they'll get a housing study done and it tells them they need 50 of everything. And so you're like, okay, well, we need 50 of everything. What do we do? So I think, part of the reason we did the prioritization was just to indicate, if you did something first, I think senior housing, I think, should be one of the first things. And then, that could also free up housing for single people that want to maybe stay there and eventually have a family. So I think the senior housing is definitely one of the top priorities. And then I think there's definitely a demand for the apartments, but I don't think we should ignore the single family homes either. So, or the starter homes for those 30 to 40 somethings.
Yeah.
Or the 20 to 24-year-olds now that are going to be 30 to 34 in 10 years.
And the senior housing there, the one shown is, my only concern with that is because that's, it's not like where we have Alden Park or another place that's just, you have to be a senior to live there. That's an assisted living facility. So my concern is with and I work on the other side of it, that's the nursing home side, and we have a lot of concerns throughout that entire facility with funding coming up. So it's kind of like, what is the funding for that kind of home going to look like? And should we focus on that or concentrate on that? Or do we want to just look at, senior homes that any senior can live in, not those that need the extra care? So, and my other quick question was, I'm trying to find the page, I just had it and then I flipped through to find something else.
While you're looking for your comment, another thing to think about is maybe if you don't think you need or concerned about kind of the potential for funding or, just making a senior facility, another idea to consider is just having, looking at some affordable housing, or not, looking at apartment housing, but making sure that maybe some of them are accessible. So maybe they have the wider doors on the bathrooms or something, so that maybe seniors could live in them, not precluding younger people, but
and
something
they do well. We have Alden Park that is always full, and, so it's not.
Yeah.
I guess my other concern or question or whatever was, you know, we do have those unique challenges mentioned. And the second one there with so many of our current single-family homes that are being used for sober living, I guess my question would be, if we do decide to go ahead and say that downtown can be full of housing or whatever else, if this is a population that isn't considered, you know, isn't counted among the residents, what are we doing to make sure that we have things that are going to be accessible to permanent residents? I don't think that there's anything that we can do, so if we're gonna make determinations about you know, what we can have downtown as far as apartment buildings and other things go, I think it's
A new development
consideration.
with higher rent would alleviate a lot of that.
Sure, but I don't see that happening
You have a
downtown.
different clientele, but I
Yeah,
don't know if there's demand for
right, I just don't see that
New
happening.
York-type apartments in Painesville.
I don't see that happening downtown though, do you? Because we don't have the room for it.
Down the road, I do.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'm sorry, Neil, go ahead.
The one last comment that we didn't, the 700 that are leaving town to work in neighboring towns, because of our location, I believe that's going to continue to grow, because we have young couples get married, she works in Wilmer, he works in St. Cloud. Painesville is the place they want to be.
Yep,
Yeah,
you're centrally located, absolutely.
And that's why I think those new houses that are going up in Ampey Park speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Is that they're affordable, okay, the wages get made out of town, and once they start having kids, they're not gonna really wanna pull them out of school and away from their friends. So you probably see that more often than not. So it seems like once they're anchored here, there's a good chance they're gonna be staying anchored here. So if we can keep that in mind that, you know, first things first, you know, moving up with the land, making sure that it's accessible and affordable, and then moving up from there, I think it's a plan that we should think about down the road.
So Robin, when you're talking, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
Well, this is a recommendation. You have the median rent right now at 791. Is that for like all bedroom units, or is that specifically one or two? I'm looking at page 19 of your report.
that would be like median income or medium rent for all of your units. So
Do you know, like just spitballing for like a one-bedroom apartment, what sort of the range is for rents in town? Did we collect that info?
I probably have that data. I don't know that I have it with me. I can certainly look it up. Trying to see if I have it in here really quick.
That's good. And the reason why I ask is I serve on the board of a local nonprofit, and there was discussion at our last board meeting that one of the rental units was increasing rents to like $1,500 per month.
Wow.
And I don't know that there's any validity behind it. It was all just grapevine stuff, so take it for what it's worth. But I was curious if that was reflected in your study, if you had seen any sort of truth to that or what was happening there.
I have not, but that, you know, that is one of the things, supply demand, right? So if there is limited supply, that's another reason, another good reason to have that a good healthy vacancy rate, because without it, you end up having, like, if people want to live here, they'll pay for it. I think, you know, in general, your rental rates are pretty reasonable. So for the units you have, they're pretty reasonable, and most people that work and live here can afford the rents, so.
All right, any other questions for Robin? All right, thank you so much for your time. and for all
Welcome,
the
thank you.
information. Super helpful, thank you.
I'll make the motion to approve the study.
Motion by Hersberg to approve the study. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Brick. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. And I know Dan just stepped out for a second, but I'm thinking, Chuck, do you want to talk to us about the wastewater treatment stuff?
Yeah, the partial release for the real property declarations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's associated with the sale of the property to AMPI, the facility. Anytime we receive state funding, whether it be for the AMPI project a few years ago, or wastewater upgrade done 2012, I believe it was, we're required to put a deed restriction on that property because there's state funds that were utilized to help fund it, so. These are two releases, basically releasing what, that allows the city to continue to, it releases those liens or those, that declaration from the portion of the property that's being sold.
It's our understanding that as soon as AMPI gets this, they can get Voss out there to put in a road, is that right?
We're waiting for an easement, a signed easement from them so we can record all the documents at once.
Okay.
So, and I talked to the city attorney actually today, and it sounds like they should have that easement any day.
So we're waiting for AMPI to sign the easement, is that right?
Correct. In order for us to record the plat, the county needs that easement.
So, gentlemen, where are we at in terms of the pretreatment plant? Nowhere?
There was a lot of "if all goes well," I believe, tossed around in the meeting I was party to.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Dan probably has had more conversations with them recently about where they're at in their design process, but our understanding is that they're in a design process so that once the land's secured, they can get.
When were we to have broken ground?
I would have to go back and look at the time frame. I do not.
When were we supposed to, or what are they saying now?
When were we supposed to have? Because my recollection is we entered into a revised significant user agreement that put penalties on BOD discharge.
Yep.
For purpose of making sure that they're incentivized to put up this pretreatment plant.
Correct.
And my recollection of that agreement was that it was a year or two,
18 months, I think it was.
18 months, and we've got to be getting near the end of those 18 months, if not at the end of it now. And we're waiting on an easement that they haven't signed. And at least in my conversations with Tarek, we have what I'm understanding, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially back of napkin type plans in place.
Well, more of a rough design.
Based on that, my recommendation to the council would be to authorize the approval and signing of these documents, but that they not be provided to AMPI until we can have a meeting and come up with some sort of memorandum of understanding and get a timeline in place for their pretreatment plant. That's my purpose of meeting on Friday, is to say, where are we at? What does the timeline look like? And get some deadlines in place so that we can hold everyone accountable to these things. Because right now, if our ponds are dead and we're looking at spending tens of thousands of dollars to revive them, even if AMPI is going to pay, the sanctions that are imposed on our user agreement don't seem to be incentivizing the way that they ought to incentivize.
The pump just got started about 20 minutes ago out at the ponds.
Good deal.
So we're recirculating at about 600 gallons a minute right now.
Any idea how long until we see, if it works, how long until we see improvement, or?
Probably not gonna see improvement for 2 to 3 days, but you're probably gonna have to run for at least a week to get it up to where we want it.
But in a couple of days, we should at least know if it's having an effect at all.
Yes.
And if it isn't, we'll definitely know it next thaw, correct? Because that's when it'll really be a bad situation, from what everyone's saying, right?
That is a whole different kettle of fish.
Okay.
How long can they keep having the bad flow before the state will step in?
It's a pretreatment plant. Doesn't have anything to do with the state or a discharge permit. It's not regulated by the state.
Okay, so we're at their mercy or not really?
Oh, they're ours because we have the discharge permit.
Yes. My concern too is, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but the basic plans that they had thus far you didn't feel would be adequate, right?
Yes, they haven't put out much for plans yet, and what they have presented to us is less than half of what is needed.
So my concern is that we're gonna go through all of this, it's gonna take the time that it takes, and then it's not going to solve the issue anyway.
Well, it will solve the issue of building a pre-treatment plant, but it won't be adequate for what it needs to do.
Wasn't there a time when Bolton and Meg was going to do the engineering on this, but AMPI wanted to get their own engineers involved?
Originally, we had looked at doing it as a city project. In the past, AMPI has not gotten into their own pre-treatment, so that's when we looked at it originally. They decided they wanted to go their own way and do their own pre-treatment facility.
Do we need to just do this as a city project?
We certainly could. Things are done much differently when they're regulated through a city. There's a lot of design standards that are different for cities versus what an industry would do on their own. So it would be completely different, or there'd be redundancy and things like that if we got involved.
So the people that they're speaking to about it right now, are those the ones that are out of Wisconsin?
Probst,
Yes.
Okay, and they seem to feel that, well, you know, being from Wisconsin as well, that they have some kind of knowledge about this, you know, as far as it behooves the dairy operation. But I don't think that they had anything in place for us to see, or for Dan to, you know, to say whether or not that was the case.
And I think that's the big thing, is they haven't supplied any real plans to say what they're, you know, what they're for surely doing, what the final product's gonna be. I know they've submitted limited stuff to you, but is just knowing what their full plans are.
That seems rather problematic. With looking at the best case scenario, especially with the treatment pond right now being less than adequate, and we're hoping that it comes back to life, but that would be the best case scenario. What's the worst case scenario that we're looking at?
That it doesn't.
So anyone can jump in and answer. I'm not quite sure. I'm just looking for something.
And it'll continue to flow into our,
Yeah, I mean, if these pumps that we've rented don't cure it, what are our next steps?
that is up to the council, but from a treatment standpoint, the stabilization ponds that are the city ponds can only handle so much organic loading. And if you start to fail out there, you're gonna have trouble, you're not gonna be able to put that in the fields because nobody's gonna want it.
Assuming things continue the way they have been the last 2 weeks and this rented pump doesn't work, how far away are we from having to tell AMPI they can't put anything more in because we can't handle it?
That is a big question.
Shooting from the hip, weeks, months,
Now?
now? And again, I won't hold you to it, I'm just trying to get a rough opinion.
They can get their ducks in a row, they've proven it. I just don't know why they aren't right now. They need to reduce what they're sending down the pipe to the city. They need to quit it.
Well, here's my thought. We're replanning this. The documents before us tonight are to begin the process of conveying that land to AMPI for their facility. Once that land is conveyed, we can't build our own pretreatment facility on their land. I'm not convinced that I want to convey it when we don't have a plan for what it's going to do.
Let's table this and put it on Friday's agenda.
Well, Friday was not going to be a formal council meeting, it was just going to be me and the AMPI.
In that case, I'd like to mention one thing.
Yeah.
Is that I think we should stay in front of this, because once the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency gets a hold of it, and gets their arms wrapped around it, it's gonna be a hard job to get them to release it, because they're gonna wanna take control of it. And it's good, that is gonna be rather expensive, and I would rather that we stay in front of this and keep them moving forward with it. I do believe that it's time that AMPI steps up to the plate and starts becoming a more responsible, component of the city, instead of trying to work their way around, what they've been doing, because ultimately, if AMPI decides they don't want to do it, it's the city that's going to be responsible for it, because we have the residents in town that rely on this. It's just not the one plant in town. So I think that's where we need to get way in front of it and let them know that things could be a lot worse unless they start stepping up to the plate.
Well, I'm good with the idea of tabling this until our next council meeting. I know they've said we can't do anything until we get the property. You can't do anything until you have a sketch, and there's nothing stopping you from sketching it either.
I agree.
So, I'm good with tabling this until our next meeting.
I'll make that a motion.
There's a motion by Hersberg to table this until our next meeting. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Thielen. Any further discussion on the issue of tabling?
Dan and Chuck, do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, calling the question. All in favor of tabling to our next meeting, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, we have a sale of 890 South Street on our update, page 22. Tarek, anything you need to tell us about this?
890 South Street was the lot that we split off. So if you remember, we acquired the lot last year, and the resident next door wants to buy as much as we're willing to sell them. And we use what we need to use. So Chuck and I had a look at it and decided, or determined the amount that we would need for if we were to have a road or some kind of entrance into the parking when we needed it. And that came out to be about 40 feet. The remainder of that lot we could sell. So we did do a lot split, and the remaining amount we will be selling to, I can't pronounce the last name.
Menson.
Menson.
Okay.
Is the 40 feet marked so he knows exactly how far he could come?
40 feet is what we will keep. The remainder is what he will
Right,
acquire.
but we should have it marked so he knows exactly if he's gonna
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
plant a hedge, or he was talking fence, or...
Yeah,
And he knows the fence has to be so far from... Yep, that sounds good to me.
I don't think he was gonna do a fence though, but yeah.
Oh,
We
okay.
will have it marked.
All right, so then with that,
Well, I think this is a no-brainer. We pretty much had approved. I'll make the motion to approve the purchase agreement for that property.
motion by Hersberg to approve the purchase agreement between the city and Victoria Menson. Resolution 25-27 is on the action sheet. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, we talked about the air show, now Kennedy and Graven. Tarek, what's going on here?
Well, I just thought that we're now dealing with two external law firms, and we have an external law firm that is with our labor issues. I did reach out to Kennedy and Graven and see if they handle that. They said, yes, this is something that they do handle. We did not add it at the time of the contract last time because we were, pretty okay with the law firm we're using for our labor. But, lately we've been having a lot of delays and issues. I know that the other firm is quite busy, so in the effort of being a little bit more seamless, I thought it would be best if we just give that to Kennedy Graven as well. Rate-wise, they would be the same rate we're paying for our current labor attorney, $230 per hour.
I was opposed to this when we hired Kennedy and Graven, but in speaking to Tarek, I think if we're running into issues and getting in touch with Susan, now is the time to switch. So, makes sense to me if it's going to be the same rate. Kennedy and Graven have been great to work with thus far.
I'll make the motion to approve the First Amendment to the agreement for civil legal services by and between the city of Painesville and Kennedy and Craven Chartered.
I'll second.
Motion by Hersberg, seconded by Megan, or Brick, as stated on the action sheet. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion carries. Ooh, sorry about that. All right, Public Works, VFD in the Headworks building.
We need a new VFD. It's for the Headworks building. It's for one of the blower motors. VFD allows a softer start when the motor kicks in. They don't kick out much lately. They're running all the time, but VFD's been out for a while. We need to replace it. We looked for cheaper options, but worked with the Bolton Mink engineer even, and this is what we came up with.
We really don't have a choice.
No.
No, I mean, it's a needed operation. With that in mind, I'll approve your purchase of a new VFD from Automatic Systems in the amount of $14,921.
Motion by Hersberg, as stated on the action sheet. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. All right, Dan, onto a generator at the lift station.
One of our generators, the fan blew apart and caused all kinds of damage to other parts inside the machine. To get it repaired is almost the cost of a new one. They wouldn't even give us a trade-in on the old one because of the internal damage. It was no fault of anything, it just blew apart. So we got a couple quotes for new ones. This is for one of our lifts. As you can see with the storm events and everything, having a backup generator is something we really rely on.
So like last night, you had to haul the one in and hook it up.
Yep.
That's a lot of work in the storm. Which, do you know how old the unit was?
I don't think it was terribly old, like 15.
No. But it can happen, I guess.
Can happen. Apparently that model has a tendency to do that.
And Cummings, with their good units, had good luck.
All right.
You want me to make that motion?
Seems to make sense to me that we need a new one and get the one from Cummins in the amount of $30,950 is the recommendation.
I'll make that motion if you're ready, Mayor.
There's a motion by Brick. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Potter. Any further discussion? Motion is stated on the action sheet. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries. All right. Then we have a recommendation from staff to transfer $250 from the general fund to the liquor capital improvement to be reimbursed at the time we receive bonds. Tarek Biddle, who wants to talk to us about this?
Obviously, the bond proceeds were not expected to get until end of August, so in the meantime, construction has begun and we do have some bills to pay. We did agree at a previous council meeting that we would transfer temporarily to the general fund and get reimbursed once we get the proceeds from the bond.
Okay.
Would it make more sense, and I'm going to be glared at when I make this suggestion, I think, to pull that money out of the liquor store's capital improvement fund?
We've already used most of it on down payments for the cooler, the shelving. That's what we're running into, and then we've been getting payments from Project One's group as well. So we've just about depleted that fund.
So you're saying no, we literally can't.
No, if we can. And the reason that the hurry up on the down payments is prices are going up, so we're kind of locking in the prices that they quoted us.
Okay. Yep. It's not like it's going to cost us any more. We've approved the bonds are sold.
Yep, they sold today.
Right?
So when will that money be available?
In about 30
August.
days.
30 days, so it's just pretty short term.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I was just checking, as of June 30th, the liquor store's capital improvement was $219,394. And I'm guessing you've spent a fair chunk of that since June 30th?
July's been busy.
Yes. I just asked for a bunch of down payments the last couple for this council meeting. And I think Chuck had one in there as well.
All right, so then we're looking to transfer $250,000 to the liquor's capital improvement fund.
So moved.
Okay. Motion by Hersberg, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Thielen, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. And with that, we've got our month-end reports found on the city's website. They're underneath the government tab. Ask me how I know, because we just looked for them. And with that, we are adjourned.